This is Never Down, Never Out with T.R. Matson. This podcast is about discipline when motivation fades, resilience when things get hard, and showing up when quitting would be easier. No hype, no shortcuts, just the mindset required to build something real. One day at a time. Let's get into it. Welcome back. Here we are, episode 7, 1 week in. Who knew that it would get this far? Not me, but pretty excited. So, trying a few tweaks on the audio and video just to see if it helps. But again, I appreciate all the support, all of the comments, all the likes, subscriptions. It really does help. I'm learning this world quite a bit, and it surprises me how much every one of those, every time you watch a video or listen to the full podcast, makes a difference. So if you like it, please keep doing that, and I really appreciate it. So let's jump into this. In the future, what I can see myself doing is maybe spending a few minutes a week just kind of going over some of the key points of any messages that were sent to me, or any comments that stood out. But for now, I'm just going to keep with the format I'm working on, and we're going to hit topic number 7 in our initial phase of this, which is the foundations of mental toughness. So today's topic: why comfort is the enemy of growth. This one's a good one, and I've experienced it multiple times in my life. One as recent as last year that I could speak to, but I saw this a lot in the military as well early on. So it's very easy to get comfortable. You know, you work so hard getting through flight school, and you get to a fleet squadron, and you just want to do your job finally, right? You know, I mean, to put that in perspective, I got commissioned in 2002, May of 2002, and by 2005, I had reached my first squadron. So, I mean, you think of, you're just a student for all that time. And you had just come out of college, so you were just done being a student, and now you've been a student again in flight school for 3 years. And I mean, in reality, what you learn very quickly is you're a student almost immediately in your fleet squadron anyway. So if you think about it, it's kind of a metaphor for life, because we're always learning. But you hit your fleet squadron, and you kind of get in your stride, and you meet your squadron mates and all of this. And then you're like, well, now what? Well, sure, there's quals that you have to work on, but those are kind of set up specifically for you. So there's a timeline for it. It's kind of a tried and true setup that, you know, you're just, I don't want to say you're along for the ride. You do have to prepare and study, but the chances of getting through the training syllabus at an alarmingly fast rate from your peers is fairly slim. So you're working on that, and I remember being on the Nimitz and kind of just getting in my groove, and I started to wonder. I was like, well, what now? What do I do? A lot of my buddies are playing video games. Rock Band was hugely popular back when we were first deploying, and there was a lot of that in the room. And I did it. I mean, obviously, we played video games to some degree, but I just felt like I wasn't building anything. And in the back of my mind, I wanted to try to transition to fly fighters one day. And, you know, I didn't see myself helping just by doing what everybody else is doing. So, you know, they say very often, if you do what everybody else does, expect the results that everybody else gets. And I knew that most of the people in my E2 squadron, whether they wanted it or not, and most probably just didn't even want it, weren't going to end up flying fighters. So I wanted to help myself out, and I decided to work on my master's degree on the side. So now here I am deployed, learning how to fly the E2, how to employ it, how to work as a crew, learning how to land on the ship better day and night in all conditions, dealing with emergencies, airborne, dealing with being a division leader in my squadron in charge of, 20, 30 enlisted men and women. And on top of all that, I said, let's work on your master's degree. And it took me 2 years to get through it, but it helped, I believe, getting the Hornet transition, because the Navy has a very specific timeline of your career. And by getting this degree, which to get promoted to a certain rank, you had to have a degree, it was a situation where I kind of helped him out, because now I'm done with that. I don't have to go do that later on, right? So that's one example, and it worked out well. Another example is, I get out of the Navy and I joined the airlines, and I wasn't even really sure that was something I wanted to do, but here I am in this new job, and I felt myself almost immediately within the first year missing the mission accomplishment. I felt myself stagnating, not really growing, getting kind of comfortable in the job. And I started really not liking myself. I didn't like where I was at. I didn't like how things were going. And I thought back and I go, well, it's not much different. So what are you going to do? And that's when I found the training department job and did that for quite a while. And that became my growth, getting out of my comfort zone there to my growth. So that helped. And then if we fast forward now, here I am sitting in front of you or next to you in the car, if you listen to me when you drive, and I'm on this podcast that is out of my comfort zone. And a lot of people probably will shake their heads at that and think, well, how is this out of your comfort zone? I've seen you on podcasts, I've seen you do things, and you're right, but you haven't seen me just specifically talk at a screen about topics that are important to me that I think need to be out there. And this is the first kind of endeavor at that. And it's uncomfortable, but do I see myself growing? Well, yeah, I do. I see a discipline growing in me to get on here and do this every day. I see a little bit of motivation in myself for stepping outside my comfort zone. And I see it even in the people around me. And some of the viewers, I think, have seen it. I've seen comments on YouTube where people, after watching 2-3 videos, say, hey, you're really coming into your own. Well, that's growth, right? So how do we apply all of that to what you're going through? Well, it's very easy to gain a little bit of success, feel good, pat yourself on the back, which is fine. You should be proud of the hard work you're putting in, but then very quickly that success undermines the discipline that you built to get there. And it doesn't take much. The creep is so quick and so subtle that it's very easy to get caught in a trap where, let's say, you're a salesperson and you set yourself up to make, X number, 10, I'm going to make 10 sales calls a day. That is what I think that if I can do that, it will drive me to being successful in my field. And then it works and you get there and you start to see the success. And then the next day you're like, I'll do 9. I'll do 9 today. I mean, nine's close. It's not going to make a difference. And in reality, it probably isn't. It's so minute. But fast forward a little bit more and maybe it's 8 calls. And before you know it, you're making 4 calls a day. And you're like, what happened? I was doing so good. But you got comfortable, right? You took a longer lunch. You took a longer phone call. You did some of these things that you weren't doing during the grind. And you got yourself comfortable. And now that you're comfortable, the growth stops, unfortunately. Now, That's not to say that we have to put ourselves out on the edge from birth to death and that we are constantly hanging it out there. No, that answer comes within you. How far do you want to go? Where do you want to take the endeavor that you're on? And how much grind do you really want to do? And I think it's something that, you can start with a plan. You can have an idea of where this is all going to go at the beginning for whatever it is that you're going through, but you really need to reevaluate it as it's going, because life changes and life comes at you. And maybe you were single when it started, but now you're in a relationship and you have to reprioritize things or at least give it some value to the prioritization that you did before. Hey, is this goal, I know it's important to me, but is it more important to me than my significant other? Well, no, but it's closer. Okay, well, then you have to reprioritize your time, right? Maybe you get married, you have kids. Kids are a big time commitment. So now it's, well, where do they fall into this? Well, likely, maybe the goal for a short time is, hey, it has to come ahead of the kids because I'm trying to set myself up. And that happens, right? Sometimes, it's funny, we talk about a work-life balance, and I always laugh at that because if you really want to be successful, you got to hang it out there and be a little unbalanced, a little unhinged, a little crazy about your craft a little bit for a short amount of time. And then once it gets going, then you can work on that balance again. So you need to, when we're talking about our daily comfort and where we're going on things, we need to actually reevaluate those throughout, because the growth and the goals I had at 20 and the ones I have at 40 are very different. And the ones I had at 40 are different than the ones I have today. So these are all things that need to be addressed on some sort of timeline. I tend to be somebody that I like checklists and timelines. So usually I do it quarterly. Hey, where am I at? How far did I get? And it's not just this. It's, goals are one thing, but, finances, relationships, health, faith, all these things are things I try to look at, at least a few times a year and see if I'm still growing or if I've gotten myself into a comfort zone. And if I have gotten myself into a comfort zone, is it a new comfort zone or is it I'm in a rut, right? Because again, that creep comes in and at some point you go from comfort zone to rut. And it's just the same thing over and over again. And now you can't see how you get out of it. And then all of a sudden you're back to square one. You're like, I don't know if I could possibly achieve this next goal in front of me, and we lose our confidence. It all ties together. So the comfort zone thing's huge. The thing that I was taught early on, you never grow in your comfort zone ever. That's just a fact. And then, the analogy was always the goldfish analogy. And what I mean by that is, if you take a tiny little goldfish and put them in a small bowl, they will only grow so big. If you take that goldfish out and put them in a bigger bowl, they're going to get bigger. But it's a paced process. If you take that goldfish out and put it into a fish tank with predators, they're going to die. So you've got to look at this slowly and have a plan, because you need that growth to be linear, not a spike and then stop. That's not going to get you anywhere. Think of if you've ever dieted, right? I mean, there's not a person on the planet that's done a crash diet to any success, right? You'll lose a ton of weight. Most of it's water. You feel good. You're like, my clothes fit better. People are looking at me more. My significant other likes me more. And then it just takes that one meal, right? That one snack, that one breaking the discipline, and it starts that creep. And then all of a sudden, your pants don't fit anymore. You're like, what happened? So doing uncomfortable things on a daily basis or weekly basis, I think, is probably one of the greatest things you can do to lead to your own success. And that success and those things that you're doing don't even have to 100% be related to the goal at hand. Sometimes you're as we've spoken before, we are callousing our mind to be able to handle that adversity, because there's no growth that's easy. I mean, think about it from childhood, right? They had growth spurts. Those stink. Your body hurts because it's growing too fast, and you're crabby and your bones ache, right? I mean, that's growth in its purest form in our human bodies, and it hurts, right? So to be successful throughout our lives, we have to own our minds and be able to handle what comes with growth and that uncomfortable feeling. So today, I think take a moment with what you're doing. We have a week coming up ahead. There's going to be some more good topics, I hope. But please take a moment and just go, hey, where am I at in this? Am I growing? Am I out of my comfort zone? I'm hanging it out there on the edge. Okay, good. Is it the right amount of hangout? Is it good? Is it with purpose? Or are you really over the edge and it's just going to come crashing down here? Or are you in your comfort zone? The bills are paid, the family's happy, health is good. You're just kind of on cruise control, right? Going down the highway. Or worse yet, are you in a rut to where you don't even know what highway you're going down anymore? You're just driving blindly into the night. Take a look at that, because if you can identify that now, you're giving yourself a chance as we continue with these topics to really see where you're at on the timeline and see what work you need to do. Because if you're in that rut, it may be that you need to shock your system, and that's going to hurt. But if you can mentally prepare yourself for the hurt, you got a chance. If you're hanging it way out there, you may need to dial it back just a little bit, because you run the risk of spiraling out of control. So take a few moments when it's quiet after this and just think about that. And, hey, if you want, leave a comment. Let me know where you're at. I'm curious what people are thinking. But again, I appreciate the support. Always do. Working on a few other things, just a few tweaks. Trying to, for my own comfort zone, continue to do this more so for my future kids and their kids, but also for everybody out there if I could help. But also, I'm working on being more disciplined with the writing and all that to try to get those goals accomplished. So we have a lot on our plate for 2026, I think, as human beings, and that's a good thing, because I think we're going to see some huge growth between now and the end of the year. So stick with me. I believe in you. Believe in yourself. We'll get through it, and we're going to have some fun on the way. Thanks for tuning in. If this episode helped you, don't just listen, apply it. Progress is built in what you do after the message ends. Remember, never down, never out. I'll see you tomorrow.